Hello everyone and welcome back to another Pony and Wolf Productions video. My name is VisualBrony and today we are reading the story Tea Time by SweetStrokesStudios. So, I kinda was I found the image a bit intriguing because it's just simply a picture of Celestia and also SweetStrokesStudios. Do they have a YouTube channel? Really? Have to check that eventually. And yeah, sincerely yours, I am as always Visual Pony, and here is a wonderful list of those amazing people who as always keeps this channel alive with their monthly donations and enable me to keep my bills paid and actually put food on the table that is at least slightly edible. So, now that I have lived off a week of ramen and some toast, actually, my nutritional values right now are not very good, now let's get into the meat of the story, because I'm very certain that by now I am annoying you a great deal. It's a nice day today. Maybe it's time to go out. I gathered my things and stepped out of my studio home and closed the door. Many ponies trotted the streets. Ponyville was such a quaint little town. Small but large enough and with good connections to other hamlets to allow me steady work as an artist. I made my way away from the main streets and the crowd and to the edge of town. In the distance one could see the towering crystal castle that belonged to the resident princess. I did miss her old library residence though. I'd often visit for the occasional storybook. We'd had many a good conversation on a myriad of subjects. She most likely hadn't the time anymore. Now out of town I headed towards the trees. There was a nice glen with a pond and large tree near the edge of Everfree, not too far from the home of one Fluttershy. Sweet mare. Painted a vase for her once. I adopted my dear pet cat from her. I only charged her half rate, I was so happy. I neared my destination. Moving through the few trees and shrubbery that blocked view of the glen, I noticed something, or rather, some pony. Sitting in my usual spot under the large tree. Of course, she was recognizable at almost any distance. I made my way to the tree nonetheless. She had an ivory coat. Sheens of pinks, greens, violets and indigos shimmered and wavered through her mane and tail, as though they were something else entirely. "Lovely day, no?" I asked, approaching. She turned and looked, eyes slightly wide, but not so much as to give away complete surprise. "Indeed." She slightly shuffled her hooves. "Perhaps it's time I should be going," she said rather uncomfortably, starting to stand. A pile of gold accessories was beside her. Her regalia. Hoof coverings, a gem-encrusted chest piece, and a very regal crown. "Do you wish to be alone?" I asked her nervously, before removing my bags. "You seem to be in thought." She chuckled. "I was, but I'm fine. It could only be so long before I was found here." Well then, would you like some tea?" I magically removed the pots and cups from my bags. "I'm about to brew a pot. Jasmine. It would be so nice to share it with some pony." She looked unsure for a moment, but then smiled and sat. "Tea would be wonderful." She adopted a more serious look and tone. "Tell me, strange pony, you wander down this glen and see the ruler of your land, and you do not bow nor give honorifics. I'd say you didn't even bat an eye. I'd like to ask why." I smiled. "I just wanted to share tea with the mare I met on my outing." I looked at her over the top of my glasses. She caught my meaning that I wouldn't be running my muzzle about the town. She turned back to the glen. Indeed. The tea had begun to boil. I removed the pot from the little portable stove. "Tell me, young stallion, what do you see when you gaze over the glen?" She looked over the surroundings, then back to me. "Well," I began to prepare our cups, removing the pot and gathering various bottles from my bags. I see the forest, for the trees. That much is certain. Sugar? Honey? What profession do you entertain? She levitated the sugar cubes from me. Artist, it's a passion. If I may, what would you see if you were to look? I prepared my cup with 2 sugar cubes and stirred it. She took a second, looking into her cup of tea. She had put a total of 7 whole sugar cubes in it. A major sweet tooth, it seemed. I see. Countless years shimmer across the water's surface. I see. The seasons pass faster than the seconds pass now. I remember when the water was not here, but a basin of flowers. The rains came in a time of weather that knew not the intervention of pony kind. I remember the tree we sit under, just a sapling. The years it froze during the windigo winters. The march of the treants that almost destroyed half the forest. I remember when the water was chocolate milk and the tree leaves were cotton candy when Discord tried to usurp control. She smiled, but it soon faded to a dark frown. Tears formed. I remember how the water reflected the moonlight oh so brilliantly at 3 in the afternoon, and how I was forced to make the most difficult decision I've ever made. She seemed to have trouble carrying on. I moved to speak, but she turned to me. And I remember the day, that wonderful day. A warm smile formed, that we returned here and had tea, just like this. I put my cup down and smiled at her. That's wonderful. You know, she loves tea very much. Jasmine, just like this, she said matter-of-factly. I chuckled. She has good taste. I'm sure she would love to have a nice chat like this with us over tea. That would be much fun. She is single, you know, and takes quite a liking to the less common-minded stallion. I nearly choked on my tea. She, of course, found this terribly amusing. Now, none of that, I quipped, still chuckling to herself. May I ask you a piece of art for my sister? As long as it's not given with my name on the card, but of course, I would be overjoyed. Moon imagery, I assume? The most diabolical smirk worked across her muzzle. I want the biggest, brightest sun you can muster. Author's note. Thank you if you've made it this far. I'm not much of a writer. This was just a little idea I had that made it farther than the others.
Hello and welcome to Comment Time with Luna, the Comment Kitten. Yes, that is me. The Comment Kitten. Please remember that you can support Pony and Wolf Productions through the links in the description below. Every dollar helps my kin openers to buy me more treats and toys. Sometimes I'll allow them to buy food for themselves too, but only if there is enough for me first. Now let's get to what I think of this story. Not much to say about it really. This story is nice and right on the spot, showing how Sunbutt likely spends her time off. It also shows that she is quite the troll when commissioning the art piece from the main character. The only piece of advice my male kin opener wanted me to mention is that the author might want to work on their punctuation. Now go away. I need a nap.